Hi, I'm Konrad Ejbich, and this is Pro and Con. My guest today is Alison Sokol Blosser, daughter of Bill and Susan Sokol Blosser, who planted the first grapes in the Dundee hills of Oregon in 1971. Thank you for coming in.
It's great to be here.
Now, you weren't even born, were you, when the grapes were planted?
That is correct.
So, tell me about the first time you remember actually becoming aware of the fact that you live in a vineyard, live in a winery. And what did that mean to you?
Oh, that's a great question. So I have two older brothers, and my brothers and I always joke that the only reason our parents had kids was for the free labor, because we were always put to work. So I have a lot of different early memories of helping my parents, watching my parents. I remember during harvest time, my dad would give me a hose and say, climb up in the press and clean it out, because I was small, so it was an easy job for me to do. I remember I was just thinking about this morning about the weather here in Toronto and how it could possibly snow tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking about the few times it would snow at the vineyard, and you know, you think of the gentle hillsides, which are perfect for vineyards, they're also perfect for sledding. So that was one of my favorite things in the winter times, and those few days during the year when we would get snow.
The advantage over the city folk.
Exactly.
I actually remember once traveling across hills in Oregon in 1987, and it was August the 6th, and it was snowing. But I guess that's because it was in the hills.
We do have some pretty unusual weather.
Yeah, yeah, but it's good weather. It's and it must be changing a lot now with climate change.
It is. You know, it's getting a little bit warmer. At the beginning, our harvests were almost always in the middle of October. Now it's not unusual for harvest to start in the middle of September. We still had, you know, here and there some harvests that start in October. 2011 was a bit late, but for the most part, harvest is moving up a couple weeks.
Yeah, that's cool. Now you and your brother, you're younger. You're not your younger.
Brother.
They're both older,
Yeah.
but the younger of the two older brothers,
Yes.
Alex, took over the winery 5 years ago.
We did.
Yeah, so as co-presidents.
Yes.
So when's the last time you had a fight with your brother?
You know, we get along amazingly well. We definitely have disagreements. There's some things that we don't always agree on, but we make sure that we talk about it in a really respectful way, and that we're dealing with the issues and not any other weird dynamics. And we make sure that we always leave on the same page. And if we can't agree on something, we get help, outside help to help us.
From mom and dad?
Get on the same page. Sometimes mom and dad, sometimes our older brother, and then we also see an executive coach once a month. And she's been really good to help make sure we're always together, we're always communicating well, and that we're always on the same page to move forward together.
It's like a corporate shrink, eh?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, she's great.
Amazing.
It's great to have somebody to talk to, I understand. Now, your parents achieved a great deal in the previous 30 years. Mm-hmm. What do you and your brother hope to achieve in the next 30?
We just don't want to burn the place down.
Yeah.
You know, my parents, it's good. They're a hard act to follow, and they helped to create an industry. Oregon wines were nowhere. People didn't even think you could grow grapes in Oregon, and now you can find Pinot Noir in Toronto and all over the world from Oregon, and it's amazing. So they left us big shoes to fill, and Alex and I really view ourselves as stewards of the land and stewards of the business. And so we got the business in great shape from our parents, and we want to be able to hand it off in even better shape to the third generation. So that's the goal, is to be able to grow it and nurture it and protect it so that it's something that we can hand off to the next generation.
Do you ever think they blew it along any lines? Like, I mean, about 15 years ago, they uprooted 30 acres of Chardonnay and said, screw it, we don't need Chardonnay, we're going to focus on Pinot Noir. Do you think it was the right thing to do?
You know, I'm sure my parents would acknowledge that they made plenty of mistakes along the way. They still had the vision, they still took the right path, and there's things that they probably would have done differently, and a lot of things that they did absolutely right, whether it was because they did their research or they just got lucky.
Right.
And the decision to take out Chardonnay, I think was a good one, because we had the wrong clones. The clones were not working well for our climate. We now, in Oregon, there's some beautiful Chardonnays that are being made, and, and they're being grown with the correct clones. So, you know, we haven't made Chardonnay since '99, And this year we're making Chardonnay for the first time from some fruit that we've purchased from another grower in the Dundee Hills.
Right, right. What percentage of what you produce is from your own estate grapes, and what percentage do you buy in?
Yeah, so we sort of have two sides of our brand and two sides of that reflect the two sides of our personality. Mm-hmm. We have our Sokol Blosser brand, which includes the Delinia, and it's Pinot Noir, Pinot Gris. We make a small amount of rosé and dessert wine, and that's probably all those wines together. We make about 15,000 cases, and I'd say 80 to 90% is all estate fruit, and then the rest we purchase from other neighboring growers.
Right, for your brands.
For the Sokol Blosser brand. And then on the other side we do some blends, which are under the Evolution brand name. Mm-hmm. And those are just very easy drinking, fun, accessible, whimsical wines with a white and a red. Yep. And those are almost entirely all purchased fruit.
Okay. Okay. Now every business goes through a stage of rapid growth, and then a little bit of stagnation, and then some terrible difficulty, and then overcoming. What was it like for Sokol Blosser? Were you even in on that? Did you sense when your parents were having a hard time?
We had a lot of nights where we were just eating top ramen or macaroni and cheese or spaghetti, and it would just kind of rotate between those growing up, because definitely in the 80s it was really tough, and I saw my parents go through that. The combination of there not being a strong industry or a strong market for Oregon wines. I mean, every time they would go out to sell Oregon wines, they would have to take a map and say, here's where Oregon is. Right. And yes, we can grow grapes here, and please try the wine. So I saw them really struggle during that period, the 90s. There was a little more recognition for Oregon wines, and then in the early 2000s, that's when it just burst, Oregon just burst onto the scene. And then it became trying to keep up with the demand.
Trying to find enough grapes,
trying to expand production. And for us, it was sort of a perfect storm, because all the original vines that my parents had planted were self-rooted. And so we were one of the first in Oregon to get phylloxera. So in '98, we started replanting our vineyard. And it wasn't until the 2011 vintage that everything from our estate was fully producing again. Right. So here, Oregon demand for Pinot Noir was just skyrocketing, and half of our vineyard was out of production.
God, that's terrible.
So that was really challenging for us, because we wanted to be out in the market, we wanted to be out pouring wines, and we were constantly out of stock.
Yeah. Where in North America is it most difficult to sell Oregon Pinot Noir?
Oh. If I had to choose any market, that might be San Francisco, just because of the proximity to California.
And the patriotism of our own wines, our local stuff, our local juice, of course.
Yeah, but they're still very welcoming to Oregon wines. It's just
those people who understand good wine.
Exactly. Yeah. And Santa Barbara we don't do very well in either, just because they have their own Pinot Noir.
I think some Carneros too, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, good. Tell me about this wine today. We've got Delinia 300. Why is it 300?
So this is named close. This is named after the 300-foot elevation mark, which is about 90 meters. And that's where all the grapes come from. So in our vineyard, we have two different soils that meet at the 300-foot or 90-meter mark. And so the grapes come from there. So it's the delineation between the two soils. And this is a special Pinot Noir that we make just for international markets. So we don't sell this in the United States, so it's Canada and Japan and the UK. Exactly, because what we've realized is that while Oregon Pinot Noir is known outside of the US, it's not as well known as we want it to be. So we needed a way to introduce people to Oregon Pinot.
With a top quality product.
With a great quality product at an accessible price point.
Interesting. So is it available all across Canada?
It is, yes.
And where's the best market in Canada? It's got to be British Columbia.
We do pretty well in British Columbia. Alberta is actually our third biggest market in the entire world.
Third in the entire world?
Yes.
Wow, I didn't know those cowpunchers did good stuff.
They do.
Right.
They know good wine when they see it. So Alberta's a great market, and then Ontario and Quebec and BC are also very good.
That's terrific. That's terrific. Listen, thanks for joining me today on Pro and Con, Alison.
Oh, my pleasure.
It's been well. You know, I was going to say that you're the prettier of the two presidents, but then I'd raise the ire of the Obama critics. After you made that
we'll keep
comment.
that between us.
Yeah, right. Thanks for coming in.
Thank
I really
you.
appreciate it.
It's my
It's been
pleasure.
fun. Join us again soon when we have more really fascinating guests right here on Pro and Con. Bye bye.